have you got your stove on?
I have.
Are you going to make a cup of coffee?
I am.
Thanks.
It's alright.
Thought bubble, thought bubble. Can I have sugar in mine, please? Mark, I'm going to make you a prawn cocktail later.
Ooh, yummy.
Old British favourite, you see.
Yes.
Got secret ingredients for it as well, old chap.
Oh.
You'll be glad of it, old boy. I say, old chaps, well, welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning into the wireless. Yes, I am YouTubing. God help the nation. We'll have to all dig deep and carry on, you see, but thanks for tuning in and intercepting this transmission under the kind invitation of Mark, MDM Outdoors.
Bonjour.
This weekend. He's secretly resistance, you see, and I was coaxed into the woods by him, so we may evade Jerry. But anyway, enough of that shenanigans. Mark's got a brand new piece of kit. He's got a petrol stove, and he's just making us a nice cup of joe on it so that we can sit back and enjoy ourselves behind enemy lines.
Yes.
And today we're going to be doing a vintage camp, aren't we, Mark?
We are. Vintage camp.
Vintage camp.
We're using vintage tents and stoves.
Love it.
We love it.
So we've both gone out and bought vintage equipment. Mark steered me in the direction, and we've got matching bags, pretty much matching tents, and we now have matching old brass stoves.
I am looking forward to dinner.
Oh yeah,
Not gonna lie.
my tummy's rumbling. Is yours?
Mine is.
And we've got some special things to cook up, and very British, we might add.
Yes.
So very excited about that, old chaps. Anyway, we'll lovely and leave you and see you in a moment.
Ta-ra.
Tadio? I say, old chaps, well, I'm on a vintage trail with Mark, MDM Outdoors, and I'm a bit worried that I would lose my tent because it's a bit dark and there's somebody mooning in the back. It's not quite dusk yet, but it's Mark, you see. Put that away, it's like a beacon for Jerry.
I've got a bit of a wide ass.
With a bit of sunshine on that, old chap. Talking of sunshine, this tent is by Sombrero. Never heard of them, don't know who they are, so maybe you could leave some comments down and let us know, old traps.
I'm about as knowledgeable with these tents as you are, so...
Oh God, God help us, old chap.
It's going to be like the blind leading the blind.
Is it 70s, is it 80s, and all that jazz. So, but there's loads of room inside. Not really, it's not like Mark's. Mark's got a mansion compared to me. But anyway, there's plenty of space really for one person, I would say, and gear. And it's one of these tents where you put the outer tent up first. It's got like a tripod to it, and then two guys that come off universally, and then on the rear there's two small poles, so it drops down with just one single guy line at the back. So, and then the inner tent suspends off two hooks using rubbers. Now, one thing Mark and I found out, that when you purchase vintage gear, the rubbers tend to perish. So between us, we've gone through 2 packs of elastic suspension bands to try and get our tents right again. So a bit of a complaint to the manufacturers if they're still in business. Probably not, probably in receivership.
I think in total we've replaced about 8 bands.
I think you're right, we have. Must have been 8 bands.
Between us.
Yeah. They just keep snapping. Yeah. And when we've been filming, they keep on going ping. Mark and I said, that's yours, no, that's yours, old chap. So you can probably imagine it'll be a scene like Carry On Camping in the morning when we wake up. We'll probably just have flat canvases on top of ourselves and no actual tents around us. So anyway, really happy with this tent. Thank you, Mark, for finding it for me.
No problem.
And we're all set up with vintage gear. We've got some great stuff to cook. It's proper Blighty food, which we're going to crack on with, and can't wait to show you my new stove as well. Anyway, catch you in a minute. Wanted to show you this. This is down to Mark, who managed to find this for me. I was after one for a little while, and this is the genuine Swedish Optimus stove, and really is a beautiful little stove. So I'm going to ask Mark as well to walk me through how to do this, because to be honest I haven't got a clue, but I'm super excited to be able to use it. There's obviously the windshield and a few of the little cleaners. Over to you, Mark.
Oh, okay, old chap. That's part of said burner. This is what's commonly known as the lipstick.
The lipstick.
Because it looks like a lipstick.
My dog's got one of those.
So's mine. And he gets it out on the cat all the time. That's your meths tray.
Oh, I see. So the meths go, well, but that goes on top of there, does it?
No, it goes underneath.
Ah.
Spanner. Box out of the way, and then the Sistella Resistance.
It's beautiful. Look at that.
Look at that.
Made in Sweden.
Number 96.
Fantastic. What a piece of kit. So how old is this, Joan? Is this 1960s? Or earlier?
50s, possibly 60s, yeah.
Beautiful, isn't it? Very nice.
It's one of the best ones I could find at a good price. So
thank you, old chap, for finding that for me. So we're going to get this going so that we can get a brew on.
Yep. And it even comes with another thread there, so you can put your lid on there for the top so you don't lose it.
They really have thought of everything, haven't they?
Yep. Put your lipstick on.
That's the lipstick.
Tighten up with said spanner. Mesh tray. And that on top. And then fill it up through there. And there you go.
Because I saw your video on one of your previous one, and you need to create a vacuum with meths, don't you?
Yeah.
Which then you pump it and then
heats this head up.
Right.
And vaporizes the meths, and
Okay.
it starts coming out the top, and then just before the meths goes out in here, you just start pumping it, and it
goes. Nice. We better get some paraffin and meths in it, old chap, haven't we?
Yes, we bet.
Let's do that. See you in a minute.
I'll probably half fill it, thereabouts. That'll probably be alright. There's a little technique to these stoves. When this is heating up, you untwist this
Right.
a little bit,
Yep.
and just before you go to light it, you close it up,
Right.
because otherwise you won't get a vacuum.
Gotcha. Okay.
You won't get pressure in there. Would you like me
Gotcha.
to remove the head so it's a
That'd be
little bit easier?
fantastic, old chap. Let's. How much do we just put a little
Just
bit?
fill it up.
Oops.
Right. Spillage. Bit of spillage, but it'll be fine. wind off it, so it can do its thing. There we go.
Jolly good. Shall I light her up, old
Yeah,
chap?
light her up.
Oh, there she goes.
There she goes. Yeah, so one thing I learned, you have to get this really hot.
Okay. So that's creating a vacuum now, is it?
Yeah. Slowly heating that up.
And this valve's open.
This one.
This one.
Yeah. And then just before we light it, we'll close that up.
Okay. Some water in the pot.
I'm hoping the little windshield does its thing. As it was a bit breezy out today. I mean, a lot of people will say these are a bit of a faff because you've got to do all this, but they're vintage and they're cool.
It was like the tent, so they probably took a little bit longer than a regular tent to put up. But as you say, it's vintage, and spend a little bit of time on it, and I imagine that these stoves would outlast any modern stove.
Oh yeah,
Any day.
this is probably 60 years old minimum.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so
Don't make it like they used to, do they, old chap?
right.
You know what it reminds me of?
What?
It's in Return to Oz. TikTok. My thinking's run down. My movement's run down. You have to wind him up.
Okay, we're close.
Okay, so we.
There she goes.
That's fantastic.
There you are.
That's fantastic. What a piece of kit. Time for coffee.
Coffee we want.
This really is a magical piece of woodland here, and very lucky to be invited here by Mark. But there's that autumnalness that's coming, typical of mid to late August. You know it's coming, autumn's on its way here in the UK, and it just really is a lovely time of year. I think autumn's one of my favourites. Yes, the cold winter's coming, but you know, I just love the changing colours that we have here in good old blighty old Chaps. Catch you in a minute. It's starting to get a bit dark now, so Mark and I are just whittling down a couple of lantern holders for our foil hand lamps. Still see, but you know, just getting ready. Quite nice to have it all in place for when it does get dark, isn't it? There we go. Rather, old chap. There we go. Should be just a ticket. Be like wee Willie Winky in his nightgown. There we go. Okay, so as Mark and I are on a vintage camp using mostly British vintage gear, we thought that it would be a good thing to do something very British. So we're going to do a prawn cocktail. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make the sauce. And the sauce, my twist on this is actually using Liberation sauce and Hurricane Harry. A lot of the ingredients for a cocktail sauce is actually in these sauces anyway. So what we start with doing, we're going to start with 5 heaped teaspoons of mayonnaise. Make sure they're proper good helpings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's our base. Now what we're going to do is add 5 spoons, that's tablespoons of Liberation sauce. In it you've got apples, tomatoes, Worcestershire sauce, soy sauce, spices, which is going to give it that lovely seafoody flavour and that colour tinge as well. Okay, that's the Liberation sauce in. Next we're going to give it 2 spoons of creamed horseradish. Okay, and that's going to give it a nice kind of zest. And last but not least is the Hurricane Harry. You don't need a lot of this. I would recommend a few drops. We're not going to do the spoon, we're just going to do 3 or 4 drops like that, just to give it a little bit of a kick and a colour, and then just give it a mix up. And as you mix it, you'll start to see it going that lovely pink colour that we know as seafood cocktail sauce should look like. Okay, got all those wonderful flavours mixing in, and the secret's going to be just to keep this cold, so we've got a little cold bag with us. Okay, because you really want your prawn cocktail cold. We're going to mix it with some little gem lettuces and obviously some Atlantic prawns as well. There it is, there's our cocktail sauce. Easy. It's Liberation sauce, Hurricane Harry, cream of horseradish, and your base, which is mayonnaise. Any mayonnaise is fine. So we've got about 400 grams of prawns. I bought them here frozen, and that just gives us a bit of time to get things prepared. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and deshell these. Bit of a tedious job, but well worth it in the end. Best way to do this: head off, break down the centre on the belly, and just pull the back end off like that. Get left with a nice juicy prawn, you see, old chap. There we go, Mr. Prawny Prawn. Okay, old chaps, that's our prawns deshelled and stinky fingers, but never mind. We've also kept a few little prawns here with the shell on for garnish. So I'm going to go ahead now, chop the lettuce and get things prepared. Cut off that coarse bit at the bottom, which we don't really want, and just want to keep a few of the outer leaves. To the side of the pot, and then chop very finely the rest of it. So what we're going to do, take our prawns that we've deshelled, okay, and we're going to pour our sauce in, like so. And just give it a mix up with the prawns, like that. Okay, now we want to, what I've got here are 2, I was going to go for the glass pub jugs, but we're in the woods and didn't want to bring the extra weight in, and didn't really want to have something else to clean up. So these are great, these are like plastic pint glasses. So all we're going to do is just stick some A bit of lettuce in the bottom of each. That's our base. And then around the edge we're going to put our lettuce leaves in, which will hold the filling for the prawn cocktail. Now some people do use apple as a garnish, but actually there's already apple in the Liberation sauce, and tomato, so putting it in just seemed a bit irrelevant, to be honest. So what we're going to do now is spoon our prawn cocktail in. We've gone for a lot of prawns. I think a lot of prawns is good. We like a lot of prawns. There we go, we've got our British favourite there. And we're going to garnish with some prawns on the outside, like that. Oh, that one succumbed to a bit of a fall. So we better put these on the inside because they're going to fall out otherwise. You get the idea. And then we're going to dust with a sprinkle of paprika, and then slice up a lemon for squeezing. And the smell, I can assure you, is absolutely fantastic. Oh, one thing I forgot as well, some garden chopped chives. They've got a great smell. Chopped these earlier on from the herb garden at home. They have got a fantastic smell. And that, old chaps, is 2 prawn cocktails out behind enemy lines. Mark, your prawn cocktail's ready.
Oh, lovely, thank you.
Well, old chaps, thanks Mark for inviting me.
That's all right.
And we're just going to crack a beer.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
To you. Cheers, everyone else.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers, all viewers. Thanks for tuning in. That's good. Mark and I were just saying, we've done all this work, we hadn't had a beer yet. It was most disappointing, so off we trundled to find ourselves a beer.
Yes, much needed. Well, I've got cider. Prawn cocktail for starters.
So we've got a prawn cocktail we made here behind enemy lines. Mark was most disgusted just now because he found prawns with heads in. I told him they were garnished, don't you know? Well, old chaps, it's time for main course, and we've actually got a steak and kidney pudding and a beef and onion pudding on the go here, and we couldn't work out how to cook them, so we thought we'd heat them through on the aluminium vintage cook set, and see if that does the trick. Here we go, number 1. That could be the steak and kidney. And there we got number 2. Number two. No, they call him number two. Oh, tad warm. Well, old chaps, while Mark's making us custard, you see, I thought I'd do a quick scene to show you what the vintage setup looks like with a foyer hand hanging outside. Looks like some sort of sequel from a Charles Dickens novel, doesn't it? Well, Mark has kindly made us some strawberry Swiss roll and custard, which is very welcome indeed.
Here's your extra
dessert.
bit.
Oh, thank you, old chap. An extra piece as well behind enemy lines.
Oh, yes.
Oh, dear.
Look at that.
Don't get much more British than this, old chaps. That's very good. That's very good.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And vintage, I would say.
Yeah.
Do you?
I would say this is quite vintage.
I wonder what the history of a Swiss roll is.
Don't know.
And is it really Swiss? Or is it British?
That was nice.
Very nice,
Isn't
isn't it? Tell you what, I love them Swiss. I'm in our vintage tents. We've had vintage food, and we've had a jolly good time. So until the morning,
Jolly good time.
there he is, right next door. Good night, Mark.
Good night, Stephen.
See you in the morning, old chap.
Yes, if our rubber bands don't break.
Yes. If you hear a ping in the night, old chap, it's our bands popping. You don't get much more vintage than that, old chap.
It's going straight in my basket.
I say thanks for tuning into the wireless, old chaps, and watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time. Tally ho. Vintage camps, vintage camps, vintage camps, and
Vintage stoves.
all this lovely gear.
We love it.
Well, thanks ever so much for the invite, Mark.
That's all right.
What a fantastic camp. We did a vintage camp using all vintage equipment, mostly British and Swedish. What a fantastic time. So anyway, dog see the rabbit. We're going to leave you to it until next time. Catch you soon.
Ta-ra.
Tally ho.
Now bugger off.
Come on, Mark, let's leave you to it.
Go.